This are your notes. Each one of the examples comes with some guided practice. So in your notebook, you should have teacher notes. So this will be like the teacher example, also called direct instruction, because you are not going to listen to me on the board. You're going to listen to me through your screen today and your headphones. So we're going to try a medium example first. The directions are not written on here, but when you see a system with two equations, each one of these lines is an equation, you're going to solve for x and y. If maybe the directions made it on your hard copy, but you should write this in your notebook because you're going to need some more room. Okay. In your notebook, you have this written down, so you can pause and write that down. And I'm going to show you this. Now, y is equal to 8x. You know what else is equal to y? 6x plus 4. In order to solve this, I'm going to use substitution. And I'm going to sub in 8x for this y. I'm also going to write it like this. 8x is equal to y, right? Which is also equal to 6x plus 4. Watch this part. If both of them are equal to y, then they equal each other. This is a big equal sign. All right, so if 8x is equal to 6x plus 4, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 6x on both sides. I'm going to move all my x's to one side of my equation and then leave all my numbers on the other side. Oh, sorry. I thought there were no fractions. Oh yeah, there are no fractions. Okay. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sub in my x is equal to 2 into one of my equations up here. In this case, I'm just going to sub it into the first one. You can sub it into either one. It will work. So this was an example. I think the biggest takeaway in this example is writing the expression like 8x is equal to y, which is also equal to 6x plus 4. And then you use that to solve this part down here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into guided practice where you are going to write both of these examples into your notebook and you're going to solve them, and then you're going to check your answer. You're going to plug in what you get for x and y, and then you're going to see the answer. Okay, so for the first one, you can write guided practice. Y is equal to -5 minus 14. Y is also equal to 2x. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rewrite. Y is equal to -5x minus 14. But it is also equal to 2x. So that means 2x is equal to -5x plus 14. So at this point, I want you to solve for x and then plug it in for y. And your answer is going to have an x value and a y value. So you can, I'm going to pause the video so you can plug in your answer and then you can check your answer right afterwards. Okay, see you in a bit. Welcome back. Check your answer. If you did not get this as your answer, then you can check your work right here. And then we're going to move on to the second guided practice. So your second guided practice for this first example is this equation, system of equation. And again, you are going to solve for x and y. When you're given two equations and two variables, your job is to solve for x and y. So we're going to rewrite this again. Y is equal to -7x minus 15, but y is also equal to -2x. So again, I'm going to draw this here to show you that it's one big equal sign. And then I'm going to do the thing where you are going to solve for x and y, and you're going to check your answer again before we move on to the final example. Welcome back. You can check your answer now. This is hopefully what you plugged in. And for this next part, I want you to write down what are your big takeaways from the last 4 minutes that we did together for this example, because you have another example, the spicy example, coming up afterwards. Okay? Welcome to the spicy level example, and what we're going to do right now is we are going to sub in one equation into the other equation. And let me show you what I mean. In your notebook, you're going to write down spicy example, and you are going to do this in your notebook along with me. This does not have directions on here, but I will fill in the directions. The directions are to solve for x and y in this format. Whenever I solve for x and y, I'm just going to write the coordinate at the end. So let's do this example. We have to isolate one equation first. And so what I do is I look for is something equal to 1x or 1y, because I'm looking at this right now, this x and this 5y, this 5y equals x, and that also is this x here. So what I'm going to do is, instead of writing x when I rewrite this equation up here, I'm actually going to write 5y. So negative 5, and instead of x, I'm going to write 5y. So all I'm doing so far is I'm copying down the question. From here, if you look at my equation, there's one variable. So if you're thinking about big ideas to put in your notes, when you substitute one equation into the other, it's because you have one variable left. You can write that down. You can pause and write that down, or go back and listen to it. From here, I'm going to simplify. I'm going to simplify like we've been practicing for most of this year. Equals 64. And then negative 25 minus 7 is going to be another negative, and it's going to be 32y equals 64. Then I'm going to divide 32. My last step, when you solve equations, probably your last step is going to be to divide. So a positive number divided by a negative number is going to be a negative number. So here's what part of my answer is. My y value of my answer is going to be negative 2. Now what do we do? However you need to write this in your notebook, you need to write in that we are going to substitute negative 2 back into one of the equations. I usually just pick the shorter equation, especially if there's a fraction. I don't pick the fraction one because I want to do this efficiently. So 5 times x something is equal to x. So now my y value is negative 2. So I'm going to plug it in right over there. Negative 2. So I end up getting negative 10 is equal to x. So my answer is negative, oh, that's not a negative 10, negative 18, I don't know where I got that, 10, comma, negative 2. So you need to think about what else do you need to write in your notes so that you can do this for the other two problems. Right now we're going to do some guided practice problems where I'm going to do part of the problem and you are going to pause it before I answer it and show my answer so you can answer it on Edpuzzle. Okay. Write down whatever you need in your notes because we are going to move on. Oops, I lost that 5, lost his hat. Okay, guided practice number 1 for the spicy examples. I'm gonna help you set it up right now, and then we are going to get started. So this x, negative y, well, I is equal to x. So instead of x, I'm going to plug in negative y in for x. But this is really tricky, so I'm gonna help you set this up. This is, instead of y, I just put parentheses. And I copy everything else down. That way I don't mix it up. So what is also x? Negative y. So a negative times a negative, you have to figure that part out. I'm going to pause the video, but I want you to plug in your answer. Your answer should be in something, comma, something form, and then you can see my answer afterwards. Go try it out right now. Here is my work for you. It looks like this, and you'll have to be very careful. Right now, if you did not get this answer, go ahead and do an error analysis and think about what did you do, and make a little note in your notebook. What are you going to do better? Don't just erase it and do it right and copy this down. I see you. At this point, you should annotate what did you do wrong. Like maybe you missed this negative, and then maybe you need to tell yourself to watch out for negatives, okay? We're gonna move on to guided practice number 2, where you're gonna do this along with me. Again, in your notebook, you should copy this down. I'm gonna help you get started, but then you are going to fill in your answer before you see my answer. Here we go. Let's see. X is equal to, my eyes go right to 1x or 1y because that's really helpful. So this 1x is equal to 2y. So I'm going to plug it in for the x value. So all I do is I write 4 parentheses, and then I just copy the rest of the equation down. That's all I do. Oh, I gave way too much. So now you're going to solve for x and y. Did I give way too much? You're going to solve for x and y. I'm going to pause my video and I'm going to show you my answer. But first, do the problem and you plug in the answer. Go ahead, go. Okie dokie. Let me move this so you can see it a little bit more. Here's my work. Again, if you made an error, don't just erase it and then rewrite it perfectly. I'm not looking for perfect in your notes. I'm looking for you to correct your errors because that is where our learning is. For those of you that are moving on to the very spicy problem, we're going to move on to the very spicy example. Otherwise, the rest of you are going to do some independent practice right now without this video. But you have to summarize first. What are the most important takeaways? Or you can summarize what error did you make and then tell me about what error you made and what you're going to tell yourself to do better next time. Bye. Hello. Congratulations. You have made it to the extra spicy example. And in your notebook right now, it should look like you should write down, oh my goodness. Wow, I did not do that. Oh, come on. Okay. You should write down this example. This is your system, and we are going to solve for x and y. Okay, now that we're solving for x and y, here's the thing. In the other examples, in the more mild and spicy examples, I already had y solved or x solved. But in this case, we're going to have to do another step before we even start solving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take any equation, say this one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for y because then we're going to use substitution to plug it in for this y. So I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides. Ba-da-da-da. Y is equal to 6 minus 2x. Okay. Now instead of y, I'm going to rewrite this equation, 2x plus 3 parentheses equals 8. Now instead of y, I'm just going to write what's in here. Instead of y, I'm going to write 6 minus 2x. So if you need to make a note on how are you going to remember that in your notes, make sure you write that down. And now I'm going to show you how I simplify this. So the first thing I do in my PEMDAS, I need to worry about my parentheses, and I need to expand this totally before I combine like terms. So 3 times 6 is 18 minus 6x is equal to 8. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure all my x's are on one side of my equation, probably this side, and then all my numbers are on this side of the equation, and then I can divide just to isolate my variable. So subtract 18, subtract 18. All right, great. 2x minus 6x is equal to negative 10. Most of you aren't doing this in your calculator anymore, which is great. But as a recap, negative number is the bigger number, so our result is going to be negative. Same with this one, 2x minus 6, it's negative 4x is equal to negative 10. To isolate x, I'm going to divide by negative 4. Let's zoom in on this guy. Negative 10 divided by negative 4, already it's going to be positive, so I'm not going to write any more signs. So I get 10 over 4, but both of these are not simplified. I can divide by 2. I'm going to divide the numerator by 2, and then also the denominator by 2. Actually, I'm going to show you this because I think you're old enough to see this. The numerator is 2 times 5, and the denominator is 2 times 2. I'm not really dividing by 2. I don't really like showing this that much because next year that's going to confuse you. But if I rewrite my factors multiply to make another number, now you can see that we're canceling out 2 over 2, and you're left with 5 over 2. Okay, that's not so bad. One fraction, that's not a big deal. What we're going to do is we are going to plug it in to solve for another number. So let's plug it into this first. Let's plug it into the first equation. It's not my first choice. It's actually my second choice, but I want to show you more fractions. Okay, so this is x. Oh, I guess, well, there's not going to be that many more fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in, instead of x, I'm just going to write parentheses. And we're about to solve for y. So I'm going to plug in 5 over 2. Now, when you get to this, good mathematicians or just efficient scholars are already going to see that this is 2 over 1. And when you multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators, you multiply the denominators. There's no common denominator when you are multiplying. So 2 times 5, we're back to 10 over 2. And then plus 3y is equal to 8. Again, I'm going to do stuff where I'm going to put all of my variables on that side and all my numbers on this side. So I'm actually going to simplify this. This worked out pretty nice. Your other ones are not going to work out this nice. Sorry. Oh man, this worked out really nice for you guys. Sorry guys, it's not going to be like this for all your problems. Okay, so my x value is 5 halves. And my y value is 1. So that's my solution. This is a little harder to see when you graph. 5 over 2 is 2.5. So it's not super easy to see on your graph, but we're going to do some guided practice problems next. So in your notebook, you are going to write down for your guided practice this equation, and I'm going to get you started a little bit. So I'm going to take this first equation up here. I just picked one. I picked one that has a 1 in front of x or y because I know, because of this. Because it's really easy for me to isolate y like this, okay? So from here, now I'm going to take this equation, the second equation, 2x minus 5 parentheses equals 15. And from here, I'm going to plug in 9 minus 2y in this guy. What color is this blue? 9 minus 2y. Okay, so I've given away too much already. Go ahead and solve this. If there are fractions, go easy. Plug in your answer, and then you'll see my results after you plug in your answer. Okay, go ahead, get started. One more thing before I go. As I was working, I think I gave you too much information, but I wrote y right here. This should definitely be x. So as you're going through, make sure that this is negative. Y equals 9 minus 2x. Otherwise, you're going to have some problems right now. Okay, go back and you can see my answer afterwards. Hello, welcome back. This was the answer that I got. I got x was equal to 5, and then y was equal to negative 1. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to your last guided practice before you do some independent practice. And it's in the top left-hand side of your screen. I'm not going to give you too much of a hint this time. I really want to let you go and try this on your own, but just watch out for negatives. I will bring this video back when you've plugged in your answer for x and y. And if you're really wondering if you get it right, you can always verify your solution by plugging in the numbers and then verifying both sides of the equation. Okay, try it out. You can check your answers here. I found my y value was 2 and my x value was 6. So I have my coordinates right there. We're not as many fractions as I thought they were going to be. But at this point, I want you to think about if you made an error, to analyze that error. What did you do wrong? What are you going to do better next time? And then you can write that in your summary as well for this final question. After your summary, make sure that you know exactly what you're supposed to do next. Take a look at the board or go find the instructions for the rest of the day. Otherwise, bye.